Hi, I'm Stacey from Eureka Ventures and welcome to Stacey Talks Hospitality. So this is the last point I made in regards to opening up of the venues, although I'm sure there will be other tips and hints that come along after this. But this is the health and safety aspect, and there is a reason why I kept this till last, primarily because things are changing all the time. And so if I give you information regarding it a week ago, it would be completely different to now. Okay, we've covered different things like licensing and products and different technology that we can use in regards to what we need to do in regards to health and safety. And that is so important, especially coming back after COVID-19. So one of the things that have been bandied around quite a bit is the fact that we've now moved from 2 meters to 1+, and a lot of people get really confused about what the plus means. It doesn't mean 1 meter and 1 centimeter. It means 1 meter plus mitigation, and that can be a number of different things. That could be masks, it could be panels or things that block people. They've also said the fact that if you're all sitting facing one way, then actually the spread can be more contained within the 1 meter kind of parameter. But there's a lot of also grey areas in regards to this as well, especially when it comes to who can sit together, how many people you can have in different groups, and all sorts of different things. And this changes from inside to outside as well. So we're going to talk about some of the aspects of health and safety and what you need to do. When you open, you need to do a risk assessment. Now, I know risk assessments are not the most exciting thing in the world to do. There are a number of different companies at the moment that are organising risk assessments and different questionnaires and things that you can use, but also you need to be able to do it yourself as well. So we're going to run through some of the little concepts of the risk assessment. I will put in some links as well. HSE have a very good template that you can use that they recommend, and they also have some guidance as well that you can go through, and covering a lot of different things in regards to hospitality. But again, they can't cover everything because it is venue specific, and you will have requirements that other venues just don't have. That is why sometimes if you have enough money, it is good to get an external person to come along and have a look at your venue and make recommendations for you. But anyway, let's go through the basic structure of the things that you need to consider. Now, we've all been into a supermarket, and on the floor of the supermarkets they have arrows about how you go around the supermarket, and also they have distancing outside the supermarket. You're going to have exactly the same thing when it comes to pubs. You need to make sure that you have a queuing system outside, because there will be queues outside, but you have a safely distanced queuing system. And I would still recommend keeping that 2 meters in between different groups of people. Now, when I say groups of people, I'm talking about bubbles. Bubbles have been used all the time, but in the context of this, it's a family. So if you have a family pub that you run, for example, the people within that family can all sit together and they can all stand together in the queue. If they are outside the family home as such, then actually they have to have the 1 meter plus or 2 meters distancing as well. So that is the same for if they're sitting or if they're standing, or any circumstances within the pub or externally as well. So just something to remember when you're planning things. Also, how do you want people to move around your venue? Now, if you have the luxury of one door that can be used for in and one door that can be used for out, that's brilliant to make sure that you have arrows indicating where the exits are. If you don't, then you need to manage the door, and this is where security or a host or someone along those lines is really, really important, just to make sure that that entrance and exit is kept clear at all times and is really regulated with how many people can come in and out of the venue. So that's really, really key to the the beginning and the start of someone's experience in the venue. If you create the right atmosphere for someone coming in, then they will understand there are different things they have to observe. Now, I also recommend putting up a sign outside and also having the discussion with people coming up to the door, because security or the host will have a mask, obviously. Having the discussion with customers about, have you had symptoms in the past 14 days, and if you have, then please don't come in. You don't want someone who's had symptoms or has had COVID-19 coming onto the premise if they've had it in the last 14 days, because if someone catches it on premise, then actually everyone that was on premise on that day should be quarantined for 14 days, which technically includes your staff as well if they came in contact and are front of house. This is not what you want at all. We'll talk about teams for staff, but you have to be very, very careful. And it's a question that you can ask, and it shows willing that you've considered it. Having a sign up as well saying, please don't come in if you've had any of these particular symptoms over the past 2 weeks, again reinforces the code that you want people to have when they come into the venue. It's that you're taking it seriously and that you think their safety and your staff's safety are really, really important. So make sure that you do start how you want to continue. So you've started off with the queuing system, they've come up to the door. You need to make sure that you have the contact details of at least one person in that group, and say to them that you'd like the rest of them, whether it be through technology or just manually writing it down on a clipboard, just for the purposes of track and trace, and then show them to their table. Everyone should really be seated, because it's the only way you can definitely make sure that people keep their distances and stay in the areas they're supposed to stay in. If you have people just mingling around, there's no boundaries and there's no way that you can keep the distances. And although councils aren't going to be able to go around and check every single venue, they will be checking venues to make sure those kind of things are put in place. Also make sure that your tables and chairs are set up in a way where you can keep the distance for customers as well. So just as equally important as that. And then look at things like toilets. How many people can you have in the toilets? I know notoriously girls go in pairs to toilets, but that can't happen anymore. If you have a lot of cubicles, then obviously you can manage that a little bit more. But even think of urinals and things like that. You want to space out people in that kind of situation as well. So some places are one in, one out when it comes to the toilets. And also look at whether you want to have them as unisex or if you still want to keep them segregated, and that will depend on the flow and where all the different facilities are within your venue. So that's another thing that you can think about. But all of this is on the risk assessment. So the best thing to do is to walk around with your template and identify all the areas where people could have contamination. It's really important when you think about this. Also think about what you want your staff to do, how they behave, and what kind of protection they need for that. Most of the time, a mask will be sufficient. I have said previously, and I will say again, I don't think gloves are a good idea. Gloves are good for hospitals, where you do something, you remove your gloves, you put new gloves on. It is highly unlikely that anyone in hospitality will pick up a glass, take their gloves off, to close the door of the glass washer. It's not going to happen. People will wash and sanitize their hands more when they don't have gloves, and there will be more cleanliness and less cross-contamination if they do not wear gloves. However, having said that, I did see a security guard the other day sanitizing his gloves. So if you have someone that's that conscientious, then fine. But if people do wear gloves, I would expect to go through boxes and boxes of gloves per shift. I'll say that again. I would expect to go through boxes and boxes of gloves per shift, because every single time you do something, you should remove your gloves afterwards. and put on new ones. So please bear that in mind, and that is why my recommendation is the way it is. So thinking about how you want your staff to walk around and do certain aspects of their job within the venue, look at how you have structured the venue. Look at what kind of customer service you want to provide. It has been stated that drinks should be served at the table and glasses should be collected from the table so that customers don't go up to the bar unless they really need to. No one should be sitting at the bar at all. They, being the government, have given very strict guidance on that. So make sure you take all your chairs away from the bar. Make sure you make it as clear to everyone as possible that they shouldn't be coming up to the bar. You should have staff go to them or have an app order so that you can then give them drinks or give them their food afterwards. So that's really important as well. Then you've got things like takeaways. Look at how you're going to do that. How do you want people to be stood in regards to coming to takeaway? When it comes to ordering, are they going to order in a different place and then move to somewhere else? Or are you going to have a queuing system where people stand spaced apart? These are all things you need to think about if you're going to have a takeaway service. Then we have cleaning. It is very important that you clean properly and that you have the right kind of disinfectant to clean. Now, again, walk around your venue and think about all the things that your customers would touch and that your staff would touch and how often you need to clean them. This will include things like the door to a toilet, or on the staircase, or the doors to come in, or the table, or walk around and have a look at any surface you think might be touched by customers and then work out a cleaning schedule for them. Most of the venues are at the moment working on a half-hour cleaning schedule, which is quite intensive really when you think about all the different aspects that need to be cleaned. But there will be some that won't be needed to be cleaned every half hour but could go to an hour. But think about everything, including the locks on the toilets. They're all things that people will touch and they're all things that will need to be cleaned. Make sure you've got the cleaning schedule, and it will be very helpful if someone like the EHO comes around that you can say, look, this is our cleaning schedule, this is what we do. Another comment someone has made is to make a COVID contact on site. So they are responsible for any COVID kind of health and safety. I would say this should fall into management really, and then it can be delegated to someone to be responsible for cleaning during a shift or something along those lines. But if you have someone that's responsible for all the COVID aspect of things, that means nothing will get forgotten and nothing will get missed with a number of different people looking at different aspects of stuff. So that's the front of house you need to think about, but think about some of the other aspects of things, like for example staff breaks. How are you going to manage that? Do you have a big enough space to have more than one staff member on it at the same time? When it comes to cutlery and crockery, are you going to have disposable cutlery? Are you going to have little sachets of tomato sauce? How exactly are you going to provide those kind of products? And then also there's deliveries. Now I'm just touching on a few different areas at the moment. As I said, every single venue is going to be specific and you will need to get specific about all the different tasks that you have on site. But things like deliveries, you'll find going forward a couple of things may happen. You may have deliveries given on the side of the side of the venue, and then the delivery person stepping back, and then someone else having to count everything and then electronically signing for it, or having a document put down, someone step back, someone else step forward, sign it, someone else step back. It could be quite robotic to start off with. Or, as I said, it might go the electronic route, so it might be emailed to the person who's receiving the delivery, so that you can go through and just do that without the transfer of paper and everything. So those are some of the aspects to think about when it comes to day-to-day tasks and things that you have to do, but also look at what is in your venue. Things like material and cushions and things are harder to clean than most, but apparently the guidance as of today, and as I said, it might change, the guidance as of today says that when it comes to material, it only really stays on the material for about 24 hours. So it could be that you have a change of cushions, for example, on a 3-day cycle. Now, we talked about the fact that we're going to ask customers not to come in if they've had any symptoms, but you have to do the same for the staff. Make sure the staff are very aware of a few different things. Before unfurloughing the staff members, you need to know whether they have any underlying health issues, because if they do, then you can't unfurlough them at the moment. You can't bring them back on site because they are still a high-risk person. The other thing is to try, wherever possible, to split your staff into teams, so that if you have to quarantine one of the teams, you do not have to close your venue, because that's a very real risk at the moment and hasn't really been specified by the government how strict they're going to be on that. So it's something to be aware of. You can half unfurlough people, which is great, which means that you can take people and get them to work for some of their normal hours and furlough the rest of the hours, so you do have that flexibility. It also means by doing that you get people used to the idea of working again when they've had so much time off. So there are a number of different things that you can do in regards to that. So that's health and safety. Very basically, it's all about mitigation of risk. Things do change all the time, and when I find out about any changes, I will try and put them on the social media, but I wanted to give you a rundown today of some of the things you need to think about right now. Any changes you make and anything that you want to let staff and customers know about, put posters up everywhere. If you have a sanitizer station for people to use, for example, put information up there. Put a QR code up there if you're using that to collect information on registrations when people come into the venues. You can put all the information up along those kind of things. Not only does it reinforce things for the customers and the staff members, but it shows willing. If you do have any problems with the council and they come in and they see that you've put posters and things up and you've taken all these precautions, it's always a bonus and it will always go on your side. It's a little tick from them. When it comes to distancing, get creative. You know, it doesn't have to just be hazard tape on the ground. If you have your company logo, for example, or you have something else, you can use those kind of things to create the distances people should be away from each other. So, you know, get quirky, use your brand, make it fun. People want to come out for fun at the moment, so let them have fun, but make sure you do manage them and educate them at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to leave that for now, and as I said, I will update you with anything that does come up as we go along. Any ideas and points that you'd like to make as well, please put it in the comment section. As I said, I've done a very generalized thing, but you need to get specific when it comes to your particular venue. So subscribe somewhere along here, or use one of the social media links that we have, and I will talk to you soon. See ya, bye.